We interrupt this program to give you a bulletin just received from one of our naval units at sea. A large object traveling at supersonic speed is headed over the North Atlantic.
Once a normal, voluptuously beautiful woman, she drove into a nightmare of horror and saw descending from the sky.
Just a minute, ladies and gentlemen. I think something is happening.
Ooh, I feel retrogasmic. 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 With Didi Deluxe
and Hetty Le Bomb.
Welcome to the Retrogasmic Podcast. I'm Didi Deluxe.
And I'm Hetty Le Bomb.
So first off, we'd just like to say thanks to everybody that supported the launch of the podcast last week. The love you've all shown on social media.
Yeah, we've had some really great feedback. Thank you for that.
We really appreciate it. As of today, we're up on iTunes and iHeartRadio as well. So please feel free to hop over there and give us a review because that all helps. On today's show, we've got Tony Daunt. It was fantastic having him in the studio. He's got a new album coming out later on this year. We've also got the Vintage Trivia.
Yes, and we're also going to call our roving reporter Winki and see what she's up to today.
Okay, so we're going to kick off with an exclusive. This is the title track off of Tony's new album. It's called Unlovable Man.
Here I am sitting here alone, gone and lost everything I've known. It was not my plan to be a lovable man. It was not my plan to be a lovable man. Here I am running near or far, lost myself in the back of your car, and it's not my plan to be a lovable man. It's not my plan to be a lovable man. There's a game that I wanna play, yeah. Will she come and will she stay? It's not my plan to be a lovable man. It's not my plan to be a lovable man. I don't take things lightly, I take them too hard, and it all seems so frightening as it tears me apart. It was not my plan to be a lovable man. It was not my plan to be a lovable man. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. There's a game that I wanna play, yeah. Will she come and will she stay, yeah. It's not my plan to be a lovable man. It's not my plan to be a lovable man. It's not my plan to be a lovable man.
So, vintage trivia time.
What's this week's question, DD?
Okay. What was Elvis's first single?
First single?
Elvis Presley's first ever single.
Now, I think I know what his first number one was, but I'm not sure what his first single was.
Okay. We'll give you the answer later on in the show.
I give you my word that I will restore your face. Restore all your beauty.
You will cringe as the demented doctor experiments with a girl's trusting innocence. You will flame to the stark ritual of a beautiful girl's last searing dance. As tragedy forever mars her loveliness, leaving her to face a world of terror.
Just in time for Halloween in 1960, it's Atom Age Vampire. Spoiler alert, there are no vampires in this film.
Oh, Pierre! Pierre!
This is an Italian movie about French people who only speak English. The story follows a Jane Mansfield lookalike stripper who loses her beauty in a horrific accident and seeks help from a secretive mad scientist to restore her. The treatment works, but at a terrible cost.
There's no one who can help me now. No one. Let me go away, please.
There's no doubt of it. Yes. She's disfigured forever. As if by a cancer that's beyond control, like leprosy.
Well, which is it? Cancer or leprosy? No, it's tuberculosis hemorrhoids.
Every drop of Derma 28 represents months of work and anxiety. And when the day comes when we can prepare it as rapidly as we do Derma 25...
Give me your arm.
Despite a totally nonsensical script and some truly awful acting, this film is still worth watching, even if just for the outfits, including the leopard fur coat of my dreams. The musical score is quite good, and there is an impressive performance by an uncredited exotic dancer about a third of the way in. 3 out of 5 from me. It's middle of the road terrible.
So our guest today is the inimitable Tony Daunt.
G'day,
Thanks for coming in, Tony.
G'day.
Let's start off by asking you, how did you first get into music? What made you want to be a musician?
Well, I guess originally it wasn't my plan. So I was a fearful little boy, and I wasn't any good at sport. I didn't like it at all.
Right.
So I guess in the way I grew up, we had to do something, and so I was told I had to play an instrument. So that started out with me getting a piano lesson, and my first piano lesson, they worked out I only had 9 fingers, you see, and the 10th one was bent over like a hook, and not only was the piano teacher a little bit awestruck by the whole thing, she sent me home. So She went, no, there's no way you could play piano with 9 fingers, so that's it, you have to go home. So I decided I had to pick another instrument, so I went to Mum and said, I'd like to play trumpet. I really like the idea of playing trumpet. So Mum said, well, Tony, I'm really sorry, but there's a slider on the trumpet that you need to use your little finger in. And because you don't have your little finger, you're not going to be able to play trumpet. So I went, okay. So then they came home with a little classical guitar.
Third time lucky.
Third time lucky. So I played around with that and ended up learning how to play guitar. Anyway, the funny thing about that story is some years later I ran into a trumpet player. And I said, yeah, no, I always wanted to play trumpet, but I couldn't because my finger. And he turned around to me and he goes, oh, it's the wrong finger, it's on the other hand. So I went, okay, so I went back and saw my mum and said, Mum, funny thing, I ran into this trumpet player and I actually asked about it, and he said, you know, it's on the other hand. She goes, yeah, I knew that, I didn't want to hear you practice.
Ah, class. You imagine if you'd have been a trumpet player, things could have turned out very different.
Things would have been very different, yeah, exactly.
Tony Daunt and the Philharmonic.
Yeah, so, but then at high school, I ran into, you know, all the usual, I guess we all ended up little punk rockers because, you know, it was the late 70s, early 80s. And knocked around with a few guys at school and got a bass guitar, and we started up a school band, and that went absolutely nowhere. But anyway, just continued on from there. Anyway, funnily enough, Swampland's new guitar player is the 14-year-old, was the 14-year-old that I used to play around with at school. So, yeah, it's funny how things go around in full cycle.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And did you keep in touch all that time, or did you just kind of reconnect?
Facebook. Facebook is an amazing thing. There is a good side to Facebook, and that is, the amount of old friends that you end up in contact with.
Sure.
So, yeah, so that's Rick Fisk, and I also ran into another friend who's Nick Ripton, and so I get to hang out with my old classmates.
That's fantastic. So what's the lineup of Swampland at the moment?
So Swampland is Rick Fisk. He's the new guitar player.
Yep.
Jamie Vodanovich is the bass player, and he was the existing bass player. And then we've got Sean Rundle, who's a new drummer, who's come on board, and he pretty much came with Rick, so those guys have worked together before.
Cool.
And who's left? Oh, that'll be me. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm still there.
Great. Now, you've got the Swampland project, and you've got the Tony Daunt and the Dauntless project.
Yep.
Do you kind of alternate between the two, or do you try and run the two things in parallel as much as possible?
Oh no, they're separate. They're separate, but they're the same. So,
but do you have to kind of put one on the back boiler while you're working on the other one, or are you gigging with both, or how do you make it work?
No, I think one thing we've got in common is I've got 100 things going on in my head right now, and I just keep them all going.
Great.
And Monday nights TD and TD, and Thursday nights Swampland, and I put on a different guitar for each band, and it's a different persona for each band, I guess.
So when you say it's a different persona, are you creatively, are you getting different things from the two projects? Or is
yeah, completely. So if you can imagine, if it was therapy for me, if you could imagine that Swampland deals with my anger issues.
Right.
and then and TD deals with my sadness.
Okay.
If you can imagine.
Yeah,
that.
no, that kind of makes sense. No, that's cool. So, Swampland, from what I understand from talking to you earlier, it's been really a singles band as far as releases are concerned. You've released four or five singles, and
so thus far. So we did one single. The plan there was to do a single and a video. So every single was a video release. So we did 4 of those. And up until this point, and then we went on hiatus because Thomas Landon Lane went overseas for a short period of time. He's been there for about 2 years and he hasn't come back. So I had to face the realisation that he wasn't going to come back, and so then we reformed with different people, and now we're looking at doing an album, but it's really important to also get those video releases out there to make it accessible to people on YouTube.
Sure. Now, do you make all your own videos, or have you got a team you work with, or?
Well, in Swampland, Paul Taylor did all 4 videos.
Okay.
And they're amazing videos, and if you understand that it's just Paul and a camera, and the way he operates is just amazing.
Yeah, no, I've seen they're really cool. They are good.
Yeah, no, he's brilliant.
Now the new album, the Tony Daunt one.
Yeah.
That's
The Unlovable Man.
The Unlovable Man. That can't be about you.
Well, definitely at times. There's definitely times that I pondered, why am I the unlovable man? Why me? Why me?
So you said earlier you don't have a release date for that, but is that going to be early next year kind of thing? Are you thinking, or?
Yeah, I really don't know. I'm assuming it's going to be early next year.
Right.
It just depends what the record company and the publicists cook together, because that's
so what labels are
that on? AAA Records.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's with Matt Smith.
Yep.
And recorded at Red Zeds, plug. And I said Red Zeds. That's a funny story. It's actually Red Room recording. Red Zeds was a place in Brisbane I used to record at.
So the new album, how does that differ from previous Tony Daunt albums?
Well, the first album was definitely a labour of love. It was something that was put together over songs that I'd written over a 20-year period. They were songs that I always had a passion for, but I could never get them to fit properly in the projects that I was in, and they just kept pulling at me and pulling at me and pulling at me. Whereas this album is all fresh material, and I guess steering away from, I think it's more honest. This one's more honest. The other one had a lot of, I guess you could identify a lot of influences that I'd had over the years in some of those songs on the first album, whereas this is definitely me now.
Okay, yeah. So we could, people that know your work will be able to see a progression, if you like.
Oh, definitely.
Sure,
definitely.
Ah, interesting. So we're going to play a couple of songs on the show. So I think what we'll do now is we'll go into a track off the new album, if you don't mind. What's this song? What can you tell us about it?
Well, this song's called Rock and Roll, and I guess the best way to describe this would be looking back at being a musician for all these years and just seeing where it could have gone and where it didn't go, and where I am now. How's that?
Great stuff. Okay, this is Rock and Roll.
I never had to go. I was easy pleasing, had my sights set so low. I was gonna take the high road, but I got myself some go slow. Then I would lean on the bottle hard. Lost my life, my love, my soul. Rock and roll. Lost my life, my love, my soul. Rock and roll. Wasn't for the money, I kinda liked the fame. Thought it cool to be a junkie, hip to be insane. Didn't wanna be the mainstream, I guess I got my dream. Then I would lean on the bottle hard. That's my life, my love, my soul. Rock and roll. That's my life, my love, my soul. Rock and roll. Laying on the dive bars, hanging with the try-hards, looking for the right start, right break, right time. When I got a good sound, wait around to get found. Then I would lean on the bottle hard. Lost my life. rock and roll. That's my life, my love, my soul. Rock and roll. Rock and roll.
So, what kind of stuff did you listen to growing up? What kind of shaped the way you hear and think about music?
Well, some of the most important bands for me would be Toy Love, for instance. We actually do a cover of a Toy Love song.
Okay.
On this album, Pull Down the Shades. It's definitely going to sound a little different to how you remember it. And actually, that was kind of cool because I had to get permission to play the song, and it's kind of.
Oh, really? You couldn't just do a cover and credit the writers.
I was led to believe that getting permission was a better way of going about things,
sure.
And that was kind of really cool. Getting in contact with my childhood idols and asking if I could cover their song, and them saying, "Yeah, we can't wait to hear
Cool.
it." So
Great.
that was good. Especially in the 80s, it was all, the Clash and the Damned and the Jam. Actually, I think I was listening to the Jam. I think the Jam were playing when I walked in here this afternoon.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So that's kind of what I grew up with, and then I moved over to Australia, and things changed a little bit. People, the punk scene over there was different. So there was like the Gun Club was an influence. Tex Perkins had a band back then called Tex Deadly and the Dum Dums, and I guess there was a kind of like this country. It was pre what we call psychobilly now.
Yeah, like country punk kind of thing.
But
Sure.
I mean the Meteors were around, I guess. But it was like country punk, and I kind of that was kind of huge for me. But it's really funny because I get labelled with a lot of stuff. So people will come and say that I'm heavily influenced by, say, Nick Cave or Johnny Cash. But actually, my influences are a lot more closer to home than that.
Yeah.
So I'm probably more influenced, honestly, by Bernie Griffin, Dave Kahn, Tammy Nielsen, real people that I've met and seen, whose careers and attitudes have shaped what I'm doing today.
That's a fair point. I think you see that quite a lot when you talk to people about other musicians about their influences. That obviously, Nick Cave is something that springs to mind, especially when you see you guys live.
Yeah.
There's definitely a flavour of that there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a huge Nick Cave fan, and that's what made you want to sound like that.
Exactly.
So, and that's something that would have come across before. So no, that's just a fair point. So. We're talking about the fact that your, the original Tony Daunt songs kind of came out of your early songwriting kind of endeavours, and then as you've moved forwards, now it's becoming more about what's coming out of you and kind of your sound and your kind of transmission of ideas. What do you think further down the line? I know it's a difficult question, but where do you think it's going to go in the next couple of years?
I think the main thing is some of the songs I wrote earlier, I was trying to fit into formats,
Right, yeah.
Trying to
write a country song or write a punk song or write a grungy song. Yeah.
Exactly. And now that's of little interest to me to try to fit into those formats because, I've come to understand that the instruments around me will give it that flavour, So if you've got Americana instruments, you don't necessarily have to play in a strict country style to have a country sound, So I think being able to let go of those parameters gives you the freedom to explore lots of stuff.
Sure. So let's listen to another song off the new album, which I guess we're almost getting an exclusive on this because this will go out before it's released. Am I right in saying that?
That's correct. Yeah.
Fantastic, exclusive, Hetty. Yes. So tell us a bit about the next song.
Well, this one's called Methadone Days, and it's a little trip down memory lane, just remembering when the methadone program was a popular pastime for a lot of people I knew.
Right, okay. Let's run it.
There goes Mary, and everyone can tell that she lived too long, my dear. That same story that she likes to tell about Sydney in the 80s. I never knew her way back then, though she likes to pretend that we were much more than friends in her methadone days, in her methadone haze, in her methadone days, in her methadone haze. There goes Jimmy, they call him the Greek. He's been locked up one too many times for a crime of which we never speak, but it's nothing too peculiar. Oh, they say he once was feared, now he's all tattooed and weird, and he skips round without a care in his methadone days, in his methadone haze, in his methadone days, in his methadone haze. I'm out on the street again, I'm on the corner at 10:30. I've been lost in what was now and then. These are my methadone days, and my methadone haze, and my methadone days, and my methadone haze. Methadone days, I'll see you there. I feel you there. I'll see you there. Don't take me away. These are my methadone days.
Great stuff, fantastic. Okay, so Tony has kindly agreed to give us a competition prize. So for a copy of Unlovable Man, the new album, which doesn't have a release date yet, but will be sometime early next year, we suspect. This is your question. So once you've worked out what the answer is, flick a message up on Facebook and we will draw the winner at random. So give us a question, Tony.
What did I stop doing on the 28th of October, 2008?
So 10 years ago, pretty much to the day.
That's it.
What did you stop doing 10 years ago? That could be a lot of things. I guess you're thinking that people that know you well will know the answer, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so what did Tony stop doing 10 years ago? Answers on a postcard? No, not postcard. Answers on Facebook, and we will draw a winner at random. Okay, Tony, thank you so much for coming in. We really appreciate it. Depending on how our release schedule goes, you could be our very first guest. So
that's awesome.
We really appreciate you coming and really appreciate you supporting the podcast. Hope the new album does fantastically well for you. Anything else you want to say to the wide world out there before we wrap up?
Keep listening.
Thanks again, Tony. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Where's Winki?
Oh my gosh, Duncan. I'm out in the middle of the harbour catching fish.
The where?
I'm in the middle of the harbour. I'm in Coromandel. And boy, I tell you what, the sun is blazing and we are catching the fish today. I'm telling you, we're going to have a massive dinner.
Fantastic. So just yourself or family or?
Well, actually, I'm with the Te Awamutu Hot Rod Club. So we've decided to get away, go fishing, drink bourbon, and look absolutely fabulous while we're doing it.
So hang on, you're telling me you're on a boat fishing, surrounded by bait and kind of general stinky fishing things, and you're dressed in pin-up?
I know, right? Nobody would ever believe me.
Go on. Describe the outfit. This I've got to hear.
Right, so today I'm wearing, by Laura Jean, Lady Fairy Tale. That's right, I'm all in pink, wearing carousel horses, and I am looking absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's just genius. So what have you caught so far today?
Right, okay, we've got 2 carways up, and I've got a snapper on my line right now.
Okay, so you're casually just catching a snapper while you're doing this?
I'm casually catching snapper, but I tell you, that rod is between my legs and I'm hanging on for dear life. And boy, has she got some bite.
Okay, look, I'll keep it short then.
Oh, shit, she's really getting a good sway on now.
Look, we'll do your Winki question, and I'll let you get back to it very
Okay.
quickly.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'm hanging on.
Right. So, if you had to hide a rhinoceros in your house, where would you keep it?
Oh, definitely under my mother's seat.
Under your mother's seat?
Yeah.
Does she have a seat that's like 4 meters high then, or something?
Oh, she has a very big puffy seat. But the problem is, my mother, when she's watching all those reruns of Coronation Street and Emmerdale, boy, she's tucking into those biscuits.
So you're worried about the rhino getting squashed, or the rhino only being able to live off breadcrumbs and biscuit crumbs?
I'm actually a little bit worried about the rhino eating my mother's biscuits and then having to deal with a very unhappy mother.
Okay, this is the most surreal 5 minutes of my entire life. Thank you, Winki.
Wow.
Enjoy your fishing. See you later.
See you later. Bye.
And now the answer to our vintage trivia question. What was Elvis's first single? And it was, of course, That's All Right, Mama.
Ah, yes.
Now, a couple of interesting things about this. It was originally a blues song, a real slow kind of swaying blues song written by a guy called Arthur Crudup. Elvis's version was recorded July the 5th, 1954, and it was basically in the shop 12 days later, which
wow.
is, I mean, by today's standard, that's mind-blowing. Blue Moon of Kentucky, the old traditional song, was on the B-side. Rolling Stone lists it as number 113 in the 500 greatest songs of all time, which is pretty cool. The guy that wrote it, Arthur Crudup, was credited as the composer on the label and given full recognition, but even as late as the mid-1970s, he was still fighting to get a single cent in royalties. It just shows, back in those days, no contracts and... Whoa.
Yeah, there were a few things like that around Elvis, unfortunately.
Yeah, from, what you read about the history, it wasn't so much Elvis, but his management and representation that caused the problems. The old Colonel wasn't the straightest shooter, was he? The recording session is remarkable. Presley, Scotty Moore, the guitarist, and Bill Black, the double bass player, they'd had the morning trying to record a couple of ballads, and by all accounts it wasn't really kind of happening that much. And in a break, kind of sandwich break, Presley was larking around and stood on a chair and started singing a kind of a 200-mile-an-hour fast version of That's All Right, Mama, which was quite a well-known song at the time. And Sam Phillips, the owner of Sun Records, stuck his head round the door and kind of wondered what was going on, and while there was all the malarkey and bajapery going on. And he said, I like that. Play it through a couple more times. So they basically ran it 2 or 3 times. And then he said, OK, we'll record it. Now, the version that's on the single was the third time they'd ever played it together. It was one take around one microphone. Now, just let that sink in.
That's real talent right there.
I mean, that's just...
No overdubs, no auto-tune.
No Pro Logic software, no layered up stuff. I mean, that's exactly what happened in the room at that time. One microphone.
Magical.
It's just astonishing.
Retrogasmic. Well, I'm afraid it's that time again, time to say goodbye. But don't worry, we've got some great stuff coming up next week. What are we doing, Dee Dee?
Well, we are playing at the Very Vintage Day Out.
That's this weekend. Is your outfit ready?
Mine is, yeah, I'm wearing it.
Oh dear. Well, I've got at least 3 outfit changes before I even leave the door, so...
It's going to be, it should be a fantastic weekend. I'm especially looking forward to doing the Tiki Party on the Saturday night. That's going to be a scream.
So if you see us, come and say hi.
Now we will,
don't bite.
No, we will have our microphone with us, and we'll be doing the roving reporter bit. Hopefully, we will put out a Very Vintage Day Out special shortly after the event.
See you there. Bye.
See ya.
Retrogasmic. With Dee Dee Deluxe
and Hetty